Good morning and half a day. The Committee on General Government Operation, Appropriation, and Housing is now called to order. For the record, today is Wednesday, July 28th. The time now is 9:03. Notice of this public hearing were disseminated via email to all senators and all main media broadcasting outlets. First public notice was issued on Tuesday, July 20th, and then followed by July 26th. The committee will hear and accept testimonies on Bill 75-36, introduced by Senator James Moylan, co-sponsored by Senator Tony Atta and Senator Chris Dueñas. An act to amend Section 2C, Section 4, and Section 5 of Public Law 35-136, relative to increasing the one-time payment for eligible individuals of the Recovery Income Support and Empowerment Rise Program of 2021 and extending the deadline for the payout by 6 months. I'd like to acknowledge the senators that have joined us this morning. We begin with the author of the bill, Senator Jim Moylan, co-sponsored Senator Tony Atta, Senator Chris Dueñas, and Senator Tedel Tadiwi. General rules for this public hearing. Those testifying on behalf of Bill 75-36 COR are invited to the panel, and they are Mr. Adam Drillon. Am I correct? Okay. Written testimony shall be submitted to the committee. Please provide my legislative staff with your written testimony for photocopy. Testimony may be read, and lengthy testimony should be summarized to about 5 minutes. Those testifying will be allowed to present oral testimony. Once you are done, please remain in the room for questions or for additional testimony as may be desired by members of the committee. Questions and testimony shall be confined to the substance or nature of the agenda. Personal inference as to the character or the motive of any senator or any individual testifying is not permitted. Any violation of this general rule of conduct will result in removal from the public hearing room. Proper form and decorum shall be practiced by all present in the public hearing room for these proceedings. Individuals who fail to maintain proper form and decorum may be restricted from providing oral testimony and will be removed from the room. When you speak, please make sure the microphone is on and that you speak into the microphone. You will state your name and your title for the record. We will now begin to discuss Bill 75-36 with Senator Moylan giving his opening statement. Senator Moylan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for my colleagues' presence and also my co-sponsors, Senator Tony Atta and Senator Chris Dueñas. I also appreciate the presence of the public for their presentation today. But as a start of this bill, I'd just like to give a brief history of how we've come to this day. Now, of course, we know on March 14th of 2020, through executive order, a public health emergency was declared by our governor. It's been a year and 4 months later that this emergency declaration continues. Then back in December of 2020, there was the Public Law 35-136, which lapsed into law, known as the Recovery, Income Support, and Employment, also better known as the RISE Act, which was lapsed into law, which we are looking at Bill 75 as amending today. Then March 12th of 2021, the introduction of Bill 75-36. It was all part of our Let's Get Guam Moving initiatives. This bill, as mentioned, will increase the single payout from $800 to $1,000, and for joint filers from $1,600 to $2,000. It also addresses the sunshine of this public law, which is supposed to have sunshine December 31st of 2021, and adjust that date to June 30th of 2022. Then on March 16th, more recently, 2021, 4 months ago, a letter to the governor implementing Public Law 35-136. We're asking the governor, please implement the RISE Act, because payment has been delayed for 3 months, and we've asked to stop delaying this payment. Then on March 18, 2021, a follow-up letter was sent to the governor after we received the review of the AG's opinion stating there's no legal challenges of implementing this RISE Act. There was no issue as to why the governor isn't following this law in the Attorney General's opinion. So then again, we asked the governor to stop delaying the payment of this RISE Act. A fourth letter was sent to the governor on April 21st, 2021, 4 months ago, to the governor stating, we have the American Rescue Plan Act. The funds are here, and we've had them for 3 months now, and learned from the governor that she had interest in paying out $9 million for a new financial management system, but nothing about implementing the public law, the RISE Act. Again, more delays. On March 25th, an executive order, 5 months after the public law 35136 made a change to the original RISE Act in eligibility of members. And there's where the problem begun. There were comments made from our Director of Department of Revenue and Taxation that it's unclear, because of the change of eligible people, if 30 million will be enough. Village mayors are now strained over the residency verification. There was comments made by our governor implying first in, first out, first come, first serve. There's also comments made by the governor, it's a grant, and they're sticking with $30 million, and it should be sufficient. Comments were made about this bill before we even had our public hearing, that if this bill was to pass, the governor will veto any legislation attempt to increase the payouts or changing of funding cap. Additional comments from Guadalupe that the federal needs to approve the use of American Rescue Plan funding before any payouts are made. There was also use of justifying that maybe the RISE plan doesn't need to be paid out because Guadalupe has already paid over $2 billion to the people of Guam. So on July 19th, 2021, a fourth letter was sent to the governor to call for a special session to address the problems caused by the governor's executive order. And it's now been 7 months since the RISE Act became public law, and still no payment. We've heard the comments of the public. We've read the comments of the public. We've seen the lines at the mayor's office. We recognize that amendments need to be made. There should be no cap. There should not be first come, first serve. We should allow enough time for applicants to submit their application. We should eliminate the mayor's verification. And we should also must see reporting requirements for transparency of these fundings. So now here we are, 7 months now. Still, qualifying residents have waited for payments for the RISE Act. And the governor continues to address it at her own times and her own terms, that the RISE Act is a program of the executive department and she can stay within the $30 million amount. This has caused problems. There's a quote that we are the authority and we have the administrative capability to implement our program in any way that we want. And we are implementing it in a very effective and streamlined process. That's not seen in the public. And finally, the governor doesn't consider we need an emergency session. But I'm very thankful for our speaker and for our committee chair for having this public hearing today, and for my colleagues to be present, and for the public's input in Bill 7536. And I look forward to our testimonies today. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Moylan. Now we'll have Mr. Adam Dillon to please make his testimony. Sir.
Buenas and Hafa Day, honorable senators of the 36th Guam Legislature. I am in support of this bill to increase the payment of $800 to $1,000 for individuals and also from $1,600 to $2,000 for families, as well as delaying however long it takes to get this bill passed. But if you would allow me just to elaborate this on my testimony, I'm here to testify on the All Rise Act. The All Rise Act must be passed, and the money dispersed must be sufficient and equally distributed. This means that there should not be a cap on the funds. The governor should have signed into executive order breaking whatever cap was initially on the funds, just like she signed an executive order to change the original Rise Act to now include local and federal government workers and retirees on the list of people to get paid. Just to recap, the creation of the original Rise Act, it was created for those who did not work in the government. I don't think that the governor should have signed that executive order because government workers never lost their jobs. As a matter of fact, some government of Guam workers were actually getting a raise during the pandemic when people were getting let go left and right from their jobs and struggling to feed their kids and pay their rent. Actually, if government workers and retirees were not included in this All Rise Act, then maybe the quote-unquote cap on the funds would have been sufficient. But since the governor wanted to include more people, she should at least lift whatever cap exists. Because essentially what she is saying, if she doesn't remove the cap, is that not every individual and family deserves to get paid the full amount of the All Rise Act. A first-come, first-served basis? Are you kidding me? You might as well throw your people in a cage and ask them to fight and kill each other, and the ones left standing get paid. The point is that an economic stimulus plan like the All Rise Act should have no cap. Just like the EIP payments, everyone should get paid. And just to be clear, those EIP payments came directly from the federal government with the help of Congressman Michaelson Nicholas, who ensured that Guam was included in the EIP payments. The All Rise Act, however, is coming from the hands of the government of Guam. I just wanted to make that distinction clear. The governor won't call for an emergency session for the legislature so that changes can be made to the All Rise Act. Why? PUA funds stop in September and our economy is far from recovery. I would say that getting these funds out to the people of Guam punctually is an emergency. The fact that the governor won't work with the legislature but signs an executive order to include her own government workers in the All Rise Act gives the perception that the government of Guam takes priority over the people. This is the overall tone I'm getting since this administration took office. Government comes first, and then the people come last. The government versus the people. And that's not how government works, and that's not how and why government was created. If anyone thinks I'm just bashing the governor for no good reason, well, I voted for her. So I believe I have the right to be critical of how she is running her governorship and how it all affects the people of Guam and the future of our beautiful island. An unnecessary obstacle the governor put in place that lays hardship on our people, though it was recently removed, is having to go to the mayor's office to fill out paperwork and verify residency. Verify residency? Are you kidding me? Can you imagine telling a World War II survivor who probably is around the age of 80, lived on an island for all their lives, suffered, to now go down to their mayor's office, wait in line forever, all in the hopes of getting some money from the All Rise Act? And even after all they did, they still might not get 1 penny. First come, first served basis, right? Let's also not forget that an article came out that discovered that some of the mayors could possibly be involved in the drug trade. And you want us to give our personal information to these people? Corrupted officials, quote unquote, leaders of our villages, who are actually working for the drug lords and causing destruction to our communities. Never mind verifying residency. That step, along with the involvement of the mayor's office at any time, should be dismissed. Simply put, if you paid your taxes from the past 2 years, then you should receive funds from the All Rise Act. Department of Revenue and Taxation already has every taxpayer's info, and Daphne Shimizu has been doing a phenomenal job. I digress. Our island received $661 million in federal funds, yet our people nor our government agencies that are in dire need of funding have not received 1 penny. Where is all our island's money? I know the governor received it months ago and, quote, waiting on the Department of Treasury to give guidance on how to spend the funds is just another excuse that this administration is using to postpone the changes that need to be made for our island since the 90s. I grew up on Guam, senators, came here at the tender age of 10 in 98. Things changed since then, but not as much as I thought it would. You know, there is a saying that Guam never changes. You can go off island, serve in the military abroad like I did, come back and everything looks the same. Same broken down buildings, but thank you, Senator Moylan, for attacking this issue. Same broken roads. I read that we will have plans to fix the roads from Hagåtña to Tamuning. Thank God. And the same infrastructure problems. How, senators, how can something still be the same after 30 years have passed? After receiving so much federal funds, especially the $661 million, I believe Guam has a chance to enter into a golden era. But money itself won't take us there. We need the right leaders. We need strong leaders. Leaders who aren't fazed by political ties, bribery, and corruption, who rise above it all. Alas, a promise to the people must be kept. I ask that the cap be removed from the All Rise Act so that every Guamanian and their families can get paid fully, equally, and on time, and that the funds increase from $800 to $1,000 for individuals and even more for families. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. De Leon. I'd ask, I'll save the author for last to ask questions. Senator Adda, do you have any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No questions. Just like to thank the gentleman for his testimony here this morning. You know, I look forward to this bill 7536 to go to the floor so that we can implement this increase from 800 to 1,000 and 1,600 to 2,000. I think it's important to know that as we look forward into the ending of PUA and the struggles that will be ahead of us, I'm sure this, whatever funding that we can avail to the people, that this would be a help. Especially, we know that at that time now, school is starting. People will be able to go out and get school supplies, the needs for their children. You know, we got the holidays coming up, so, you know, we got to ensure that people continue to be able to place food on their tables, get their kids to school. So, you know, Mr. Chair, I hope that we'll be able to get the committee report for this bill completed, and hopefully we'll be able to place this onto, if not our next week's session, then hopefully the in between, so that we can get this immediately out and, you know, get it up to the governor so that she may be able to sign it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Adda. And I know that Senator Tello came in next. Senator Tello, do you have any questions or comments on the bill?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning to my colleagues, and good morning to you, also the staff here at the legislature. I'd like to thank you for all your hard work as well. We never recognize you but that much, and we should be doing it. So I appreciate all those who are here at the legislature that works behind the scenes. And to you, sir, thank you so much for coming out and testifying. Do we have a copy of your testimony? Yes. Okay, it's in here? We do have it in the packet. Okay, great, because I'd like to go over it thoroughly and look at it. It's important to come out and voice your opinion and do so without any, you know, people pushing toward you to come and testify, that you're here on your own free will, and it's something that you wrote yourself and want to put out there. We do share the same concerns, and hopefully that something will go through. I know there's another bill that's coming up, Bill 163, I think it's also another bill that's been introduced, kind of similar to what this bill is doing, so I hope you can be there to be here to testify on that. I think it's Bill 164. It has a public hearing coming up as well. So if you can look at that legislation, I appreciate your input, because what you said today, you're pretty thorough. So look at Bill 164-36, and we're having a public hearing again, and looking forward to seeing you there on that testimony as well. So be safe, and thank you for exercising your right to speak up. This is your house, and I appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Tello. Senator Dueñas, and you'll be followed by Senator Brown.
Sidus Mazi, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Drilon, thank you for being here today. I only have one question. I think I probably already know the answer. Do you hail from the private sector, or maybe even are you looking for a job at this time?
I served in the military. I got out in 2018. Currently, I have medical disability from the military. And I just want to make clear, even though that the retirees were included in this All Rise Act, I am also in full support of the original Rise Act, which did not include people like me who are considered, retired. Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Drilon, and I only ask that because, I am so impressed with your testimony, and the number of emails that we've been getting with regard to this bill. You have encapsulated everything that these folks, your articulation really just blew me away, and I thank you, because I think that, today, obviously, I think many people are either out there trying to find jobs, trying to take care of their families. I'm sure they would have wanted to come down here. But your representation today and your articulation throughout your testimony encapsulated not only these numerous emails that we have gotten with regard to this bill in support, but also in articulating the fact that the onerous application process, the issue that you hit the nail on the head with regard to the residency verification. And, when us senators, make our plea to the governor and we say things, of course, it can be viewed as political, particularly us that are on the opposition party. But when somebody like you comes down and encapsulates, and we hear it on the streets time and time again when we're out there talking to the public, I just can't thank you enough for coming forward and really enumerating everything that the frustration that the people have been feeling, especially since you have made it clear you voted for this governor. I just say because you voted particularly, you have a huge voice. But you voted for this governor. And you are now preying upon your vote to be heard in terms of what your expectations were. And I just applaud you for that immensely. I agree with you as well that why would you go out there and expand this pool and expand the act through executive order and then not even consider raising the cap? I have to reiterate your testimony, Mr. Drilon, when you said, you might as well just throw us in the cage and have us fight for it. May the best man win. Woman, whomever else has to fight for what was set out and passed in law. That needs to be articulated, because that is exactly what is going to happen, because there will be a cutoff. A number of the emails that were sent here also did the math that you did, Mr. Drilon, and basically set it at probably 27,000 with the expansion of what's been done. And the rest will just be, sorry, program closed. So I thank you for your service to our country. I hope things are going well for you in whatever you're doing to build your future going forward. But undangkaluna sujus masi from the bottom of my heart, really, because you have an amazing articulation throughout your testimony, an amazing grasp of the process. And coming from a private citizen, like I said, the halls aren't filled, the emails are loaded, but I'm sure it's because people are just trying to survive and figure out what they're going to do tomorrow. In closing, I hope you consider running for office. And I mean that. I really mean that. The grasp that you had of this particular issue And the fact that you have no problem sitting there saying, I voted, and obviously you made your choice based on following the politics and your deduction. I hope you consider running for office, Adam. Si Diyos masi, Mr. Chairman.
Very good, Senator Dueñas. Good speech. Senator Brown, do you have any comments or questions for the individual on the bill?
I think they're already cheering what party side to run on. Thank you very much, Mr. Duran, for your testimony this morning and coming down and providing your thoughts and your views and the contemplation that you've had with regards to this issue. You know, as I mentioned before, this is like, gosh, this bill, the original RISE Act, was passed in the previous 35th Guam legislature, and we're now heading into 8 months and a few days of this new year. I think we agree this is one issue we shouldn't be playing politics for. I kind of feel awkward that it's almost like we're having to knock on the castle doors to raise these concerns to the administration about the need to assist our people, particularly those that are the most needy, that, as you mentioned, those that have been unemployed, that have received no income. And I appreciate your fact also, Mr. Drilon, of relaying that you yourself, even if you're not eligible or would not be eligible, you want to make sure that those that are and that are in most need, that need the money, get the money they need. And it's ironic, politics can be a good and bad thing, and right now it's not looked at as the best. When the intent of these funds were to assist our people during the time of the greatest need. And that need was probably even more important 8 or 9 months ago, but it still exists today, especially as my colleagues have elaborated. We're starting to see the decrease of federal funding, particularly for those that have been unemployed in our community. And while this money, whether we argue, is it 800, is it 1,000, is it 1,600 per couple, or 2,000 per couple, I think we recognize, and the governor has reiterated quite often, that she has the ability to control these federal funds, which doesn't even need any legislative action. I mean, certainly we're going through the process and going through the motions to show that the legislature is not sitting down on this issue, and we're trying to move forward to facilitate getting the money out to the public. But, as listed here, I mean, the general fund is 22 million behind. So if the funds are not coming from the general fund, then certainly if it's coming from the RISE Act is coming from the federal funding sources, certainly the governor can help facilitate that, because there's no doubt anyone can argue that this money is going to those that have been directly and adversely impacted by the pandemic. Colleagues, this is not a popularity contest, and this is certainly not something anyone should be standing up flagging themselves for attention. I think we collectively need to work to pressure the administration to move forward, however we can facilitate to minimize the impact to people of having to go through arduous processes just to qualify. I mean, if there's a way we can facilitate so that they can get paid out as we did through the federal funding process, through our rev and tax, identifying those eligible applicants and ratepayers, and by all means, let's do that so we can get the money out to our public. But thank you very much, Mr. Drilon, for coming and articulating your concerns. I know many of our people share that and are just as frustrated and want to see us move on from this so that we can build up. And certainly providing these funding is a hand up to get our people there. So with that, Mr. Chairman, thank you for the opportunity again. Mr. Drilon, thank you very much for coming down and sharing your views with us with regards to this issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Brown. And I'll make some comments before Senator Moylan would close on his bill. Number one, I have no objection to the increase from 800 to 1,000. That's an easy one. Next one is because when we first introduced that bill, the previous term, it was just trying to get it out. It first started out with a lot for a smaller group, and then we had to introduce something with a bigger group. I would even consider and ask my colleagues we'll take a look at it, the funding side, and raising the cap would be perfect. When you add additional people, you've got to raise the cap. That's a simple math. It shouldn't require a lot of intelligence. Number two, looking at the threshold of the income. The original bill is 40,000, and it's 40,000 and 80,000. Raising that income level would make sense, because it's not just one group of people that are suffering from the pandemic. It's all suffered, but maybe I would say maybe the 40,000 should be considered to raise it up to 50,000 for the income as an individual, and the couple, as instead of 80, make it 100,000. So it's within reason. The reason why I say that is because if you look at all the stimulus, it was a lot higher than this. And if we're trying to help our people, we're the only one that can help them. That's a very simple thing. On the next thing, I think we all have to be reminded that the bill has always been very specific. Is to use the whatever's left, transfer authority appropriation 2021. And I've advised the author of the bill that I'm looking at that. I'm looking at the funding source, and I believe we can find a funding source, and we can work with that. And with that, I'd ask Senator Moylan to go ahead and proceed to give his closing, and then I'll end the public hearing on this bill. And one more. In reference to revenue and tax, we need to all understand when they do the mayor's verification, I think the belief is that, I think the people of Guam actually believe because you file taxes, revenue and tax can access that data. No, it doesn't work that way. You being in the military and I'm being retired from the military, there's certain things you can't go into unless authorized by the individual. It's under the Privacy Act. I think there's one key, there's one form for sure that revenue and tax will need. It's basically an approval to access that data, to greenlight them to look at it and use it for the purpose of the rise. Once that's accessed and authorized, then it's free fall. I think they should have a means to allow everybody to go through that procedure, maybe online or in person. And I like your statement. We're not going to put people in a cage and figure out who survives. No, we're not going to do that. We're civilized people. We're just going to go through the process and get it done. And along the 6 months should be sufficient extension. And then we work from there. Senator Moylan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, colleagues, for the comments, and especially thank you, Mr. Adam Darlan, for your presentation and your continuous fight and pushing for this. Of course, we can see that if we do not make the noise, if we do not stand up and fight, if we do not raise our voices, if we do not address our opinion, we wouldn't be here today for this fight that we continue to do. We are a co-equal branch of government. You represent us. You put us in here in our seats. And it's our duty to keep on raising our voices to make that heard. And from that, we've added over 500 names to a petition in support of this, which we'll be submitting to our committee chair here. We've had numerous Facebook comments of people raising their voices as well, which will be submitted into the committee as well. Emails, of course, yours especially, which again makes the noise. And thank you, Mr. Chair, for also addressing the need for looking at the threshold. If we can help more people, let's help more people. At the end of the day, in addition to helping the people, this also will help our government in the form of spending this money as a stimulus packet, as what it was meant to do, in return for in payment of taxes coming back to our general funds, which our government needs. And so, Mr. Chairman, I just also want to express that we're here today because the governor punted this back to us. She punted back the RISE Act to the legislature. The governor went on record stating that she does not have the authority to make changes to the plan because it is set in law. So just as many of our colleagues, we have asked for consideration on amending impediments with the application process. And all of our requests continue to be denied by the administration. And this public hearing is about taking communities' concerns and revising the stimulus program, which is more than just paying out $800 or $1,000. It's also an economic stimulus opportunity, one of which would infuse hopefully over $40 million in our economy. So, Mr. Chairman, I also, if I may, Just want to acknowledge some good folks that have been helping our office in this process. And I'd like to recognize a couple of my interns that are here today, if they can kindly stand. Ms. Kennedy Barcenas. I'm sorry, she's not here, but she's also part of this. We also have Kennedy Materney. Please stand. And also Rihanna Dueñas from our office, our interns. And if I appreciate their support and learning the process, and I'm hoping they will continue with what they've been doing with community service in our office and helping us assist in learning the process of bill writing. So thank you very much. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I thank you very much for this opportunity. Sijus Masi.
Thank you, Senator Moylan. Being that all that wanted to testify have testified and my colleagues have asked the question, the committee will conclude this public hearing. And the committee will continue to receive testimony. Please address your written testimony to the Committee on General Government Operation, Appropriation, and Housing and submit it via email to Senator Joe S. Agustin at gmail.com or to my office located at Rand Care Building, 2nd floor, Suite 3, 761 Marine Corps Drive, Tamuning, Guam. And a reminder to the people of Guam, tomorrow we will have another public hearing, generally on the same issue that deals with the rise. Since it's been thrown on our lap that we make the changes, we'll make the changes. And that's what we'll do. If we need to make the changes to take care of the people of Guam, then we'll do that. I believe we've got the support of my colleagues to make the changes we need to make on the RISE Act. And we'll do that tomorrow. And with that, Sijus Masi for your attendance, Mr. Drillen. And for all those at home, thank you for watching. This public hearing on Bill 75-36 COR is now adjourned at 9:40. Please be safe and have a nice day. Thank you.